Have you ever wondered why people in different parts of the world have such unique daily habits? For example, have you noticed how Europeans usually eat with a knife and fork, while Asians prefer to use chopsticks? This difference, like so many others, comes from a blend of history, resources, and cultural values passed down through generations. Let's dive into the fascinating reasons behind these contrasts and discover how everything from eating utensils to family life varies across these two cultural worlds. Starting with our eating habits, why do Europeans use forks and knives while Asians use chopsticks? In Europe, where large cuts of meat have historically been a staple, forks and knives were not only practical but essential. Big cuts of beef or pork needed to be cut down, and knife and fork offered the perfect tools for this. These utensils also evolved as symbols of sophistication, especially among the nobility. In Asia, however, chopsticks became the norm, not just due to philosophy, but out of practicality and necessity. Food was usually cooked in small pieces, partly because fuel resources like firewood were scarce, making quick cooking essential. Also, Confucian ideals discouraged the use of knives at the table, believing they introduced aggression. Chopsticks allowed a calmer, more harmonious mealtime. The way people eat is also distinct. In Europe, everyone has their own plate, and the emphasis on individual servings reflects a cultural respect for personal space and hygiene that gained importance with urbanization and the spread of sanitation practices. In Asia, on the other hand, meals are often served in communal dishes that everyone shares from. Here, food sharing is valued as a symbol of unity and trust, underscoring the emphasis on community and family bonds. Eating from a shared plate is also more economical, which is particularly beneficial in densely populated and resource-conscious societies. And what about tea? Europeans and Asians both love it, but they approach it differently. In China and Japan, tea is almost a spiritual experience. It's linked to Zen Buddhism and Taoism, where rituals around tea making and drinking reflect a meditative, mindful approach. Each step is deliberate, from the water's temperature to the careful preparation, symbolizing the harmony of life. In Europe, tea arrived much later, during the age of exploration, and quickly became a social event. Particularly in Britain, tea time evolved into an aristocratic activity, reflecting wealth and social standing rather than deep spirituality. While both cultures celebrate tea, it's clear that the meaning and ritual are worlds apart. There's even a difference in how people sleep. In Europe, tall beds have long symbolized comfort, wealth, and even protection from cold or pests in medieval times. The elevation of the bed became a marker of status and evolved to symbolize comfort. In Japan, however, many people sleep on tatami mats or futons close to the floor. These beds are ideal for Japan's humid climate and were also influenced by the need to adapt to earthquakes. Additionally, Japanese homes are often minimalist, and futons can be folded and stored, freeing up valuable space. This preference reflects a cultural inclination towards simplicity and flexibility. Another distinct difference: how people greet each other. In Europe, a handshake is common, a custom dating back to ancient Rome, when soldiers would shake hands to show they were unarmed. It's about showing equality and trust. In Asia, however, gestures like bowing in Japan or saying namaste in India are more common. These gestures are about humility and respect, reflecting deeply rooted cultural values. Bowing or pressing hands together isn't just about greeting. It's about showing a deep, almost reverent respect for the other person, recognizing a hierarchy that may be based on age, experience, or social status. If you've ever wondered why people take off their shoes in Asian homes, but not so often in Europe, the reasons are both practical and cultural. In Japan, for example, The floors are often made of tatami mats, which are delicate and hard to clean. Removing shoes keeps the home clean and is a sign of respect for the household. In many parts of Asia, there's also a belief that shoes carry negative or unclean energy from the outside. In Europe, however, cold weather and the lack of such sensitive flooring materials mean that many people keep their shoes on inside. The difference comes down to climate, materials, and a mix of practical and symbolic beliefs about cleanliness. Even beauty ideals vary. In Europe, people often see a tan as attractive, symbolizing health, outdoor life, and time spent on vacation. This perception grew after the Industrial Revolution, when factory work kept the labor force indoors. But in Asia, the ideal has long been pale skin, seen as a mark of higher social status and an indicator of not having to labor outdoors in the sun. This beauty standard is so deeply ingrained that it continues to influence modern skincare and cosmetics in Asian countries today. Now, if we look at breakfast, European and Asian meals are almost opposite in their approach. Europeans often eat lighter foods like bread, cheese, or pastries, with a focus on carbohydrates and dairy. These foods are easy to produce in colder climates and fit into a quicker morning routine in urbanized societies. In Asia, however, breakfast can be a hearty meal with rice, vegetables, or even soups. These are energy-dense foods suited to societies with a strong history in agriculture, where morning meals need to fuel physically demanding work. Misunderstandings can also arise over hospitality. In Asia, being a host often means allowing guests to stay as long as they wish, with meals and even lodging if needed. This is seen as a form of respect and a way to strengthen family and social bonds. In Europe, however, hosting a guest is often more formal and time-limited, partly because of a cultural emphasis on respecting each other's personal space. Here, guests are more likely to visit for a few hours than stay overnight, reflecting the European focus on personal privacy and independence. Finally, there's family life. In Europe, young adults usually move out once they reach adulthood, reflecting a cultural emphasis on personal independence. This individualism has been a part of European life since the Industrial Revolution, which created more opportunities for young people to support themselves. In Asia, however, staying with the family even into adulthood is common, influenced by Confucian values of filial piety and responsibility. In countries like Japan, India, and China, caring for one's parents and maintaining close family bonds are seen as honorable, and multi-generational households are normal. These differences, though they may seem small, reveal a lot about the values, history, and lifestyles of each culture. It's amazing how much we can learn about a place just by looking at everyday habits. If you enjoyed exploring these cultural contrasts, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos that dive into the world's unique cultures.